everybody, it's Keren here from tuppencecolored.co.uk. Thank you very, very much for joining me for today's project. And as you can see, it is another Halloween card. And as you know, I do love my action cards. So there is a little piece cut out here. And when I move this, then my little skeleton character changes his heads. Now, I wonder if you can guess how I've made the spinner mechanism work, and I will give you a clue. It isn't with a brad. Stay with me and I will show you how I did it. Here are the supplies that I'm going to be using to make this card today. I have a piece of basic grey, which is 4 inches by 11.5, and I've scored it at 5 3/4, folded it, and that is going to be my card base. To go on top of that, the mat that will go on top of that is this piece of card here. It's pumpkin pie, which is being trimmed to 3 3/4 by 5.5, and I have sponged all over it using the seasonal masks, or one of the seasonal masks. Now, I'm not going to show you today how I did all of this, but what I will do is I will post the video showing how I got this effect onto YouTube, and I will put a link up there, so you can, if you want to, you can go and see how that all went together. If you think you've got the idea, you don't have to bother. And I've got a circle of basic grey card, which I cut with the largest of the layering framelets. All right. And I'm going to be using this stamp set, Mr. Funny Bones, and ahead of time I have done some stamping. So I stamped with Versamark on to the black card, and I've used white embossing powder, heat embossed it, and I've gone ahead and on the back I've got a piece of double-sided adhesive sheet. Now I'm doing that for speed. Of course, you can do this with, I would recommend a wet glue. I would probably think that using something like a snail or fast fuse might be a bit fiddly. On this piece, I've stamped in Memento Tuxedo Black, and I don't know whether you can see, but I have heat embossed with clear powder. I'm going to work on the back of this piece of card, and ahead of time I've gone ahead and I've made a mark at the centre of the card, and I've cut a circle of, this is just a piece of scrap paper, using the same die as I used to cut the circle of smoky slate, and I folded it in half that way, and then I folded it again in half that way, and where my folds meet, that is going to be the centre of my circle. So I have my piercing tool, and I'm just going to pierce right the way through the centre, and I want a, you know, a fairly visible hole, so I'm going to spin that around a little bit. Right, so I put my piercing tool away just for a moment. Now this is going to be my guide, so I'm going to place it quite near to the top of the card, actually a bit nearer than that, I think, and I'm lining up my fold line with the line I drew, and I'm going to mark a nice black dot for my centre, and I'm also just going to just give myself some indications here where I want this to sit. Okay, so that's the first piece. Now I want to mark the centre on the corresponding piece of card as well, so I'm just going to line that up and make a mark at the centre. This next bit's not strictly necessary. I just wanted to give myself some guidelines as to where I wanted my stamped images to go. So I cut another piece of the scrap paper, and this time I folded it in half that way, but then I folded it into thirds. So I wound up with that shape. And I just did that by just kind of folding the paper on top of itself until it was the shape I wanted it to. And that gave me 6 segments. So I reinforced 3 of them as mountain folds and 3 as valleys. So that one should be, hang on, that's a mountain, that's a mountain, and that's a mountain. So that I now have, well, I have 6 segments, but I only want 3. So I'm going to line that up with the card, and I'm just going to make a mark and make a mark there and make a mark there, and that'll give me a little bit of guidance when I'm actually placing my stamped images onto this piece of card. I've put a little pencil mark that's about 1/4 inch from the top edge of the card there, and I've got my 1-inch circle punch, and I'm just going to line it up with the mark I've made, so I can just see the mark. Okay, can you see that? There you can. Good. And punch. Okay. And that is going to be the bit where the skeleton's face appears. If I just put that around there, that is going to be a bit like that. Okay, you with me so far? For the next step, I'm going to be using this, or perhaps I should say these, because it is a 2-part item, if I can just prise them apart. And it's a dress fastener, otherwise known as a popper or a snap fastener. They come in 2 parts, just in case you've never ever seen one before. You have one that's an outie, don't know how well you can see that, and that's an innie, and the outie fits into the innie. And you know, you've probably got them on some of your clothes somewhere. They're very, very inexpensive, a couple of pounds on Amazon, and I got about 50 of them. So that is that's what I'm going to be using to make it all turn. Now, this is the 10mm size, which is about 3/8 of an inch. I did get some, I got these, which are 15mm, but what I found was, if I just pop that out and show you, that when I had it centered where I wanted my my wheel to be centered, as you can see, it falls over the hole, it's too big. So I was just lucky that I had some of the smaller ones handy. Okay, and this will be quite big enough. Now, because I'm sticking metal to card, I want something with a little bit more authority than my usual Tombow. So I have a solvent-based adhesive here. It's and this is one that I like for crafting, but you know, it's your multi-purpose glue that you use for everything that you've probably got in the kitchen drawer somewhere. You know, it's the one that you use when all else fails. So I'm just going to put that on to there, and I'm just going to let that have a good time to set. Okay, now just so I don't lose this bit and I know what I'm going to do with it, if I bring back my grey piece, my basic grey, and I'm just going to pierce a hole through that centre that I marked, and that will then, whoops, come back your divil, that will then fit through there, and that will fit onto it, but it's going to go that way. Okay, so that is going to be on the back, and this is going to be the front of the card. While the adhesive is drying on the back of the card, I'm going to go and assemble the skeleton on the front of the card. So I have stamped in Versamark and white heat embossed one of his bodies. He only needs one body, and 2 of the larger leg bones, and 2 of the smaller leg bones. And actually I have stamped 4 of those because 2 of them are going to be his shoulder bones or his upper arm bones, and 2 of the lower arm bones, and 2 arms and 2 feet. And I'm going to go and finish my fussy cutting, and I'm going to take the adhesive backing off these pieces, and I will assemble the skeleton. And this is going to be either fast forwarded or here's one I made earlier, so I'll see you in a little bit. there's my skeleton body on the front of my card, and I just want to turn over and show you something on the back, because I found that because I'm sticking metal to card, it's always going to be a problem. And I found that this wasn't sticking as quickly or as well as I'd like. So what I have done, I cut a little strip of the pumpkin pie card. In fact, it was cut from the bit that I chopped out there, and I just glued it on top of the fastener, and I also moved the fastener up a tiny little bit so that it was right up against the edge of the circle, and that was because I didn't give myself enough room at the top there for my wheel to spin. So that is now pretty much ready. So I am now ready to put the spinner wheel in, and got my circle of card, and I'm just going to fit that over the outie, sorry, the innie bit. No, that's the outie, this is the innie, and I'm going to put the innie on top of it, and that will now allow the wheel to spin. So I'm going to put my skeleton heads in. Now I put my balance marks in, and again, this isn't essential because you can do this kind of any way you want, and I'm going to bring back the 3 pieces that I stamped earlier on. Now I've coloured them in with my my Stampin' Up markers, and what I have done on 2 of the pieces but not on this one was I took a basic grey Stampin' Up marker and I just went around the edge just like this, so that I'm hoping that it will, you know, it just takes away those white edges and it'll just help it to blend into the background a bit more. Okay, so let's start with the first head. Let's get the backing off here, which of course doesn't want to cooperate because they never do. I've got a little pot here that I'm throwing my my leftover bits in, and I'm just going to line that up where I want it before I press down. And that's the first head. And I'm going to move it round until I see my second marker appearing at the top there, and this time I will have the sugar skull. So this is the skelly all ready to go to Day of the Dead festival. And again, same thing then, just pop it where I want it, and it's slightly fiddly because of the snap fastener on the back, but that's okay. I can just lift it up in my hand, and the adhesive is quite forgiving until, you know, till you burnish it down. And again, you could use wet adhesive for this, that would be absolutely fine. Okay, and spin it round again until I find my third marker, which is there, and this time it's going to be a pumpkin head, a jack-o'-lantern. So it's, as I said, it's all very Nightmare Before Christmas, all very spooky, and all a lot of fun. Now, of course, this card happens to be a Halloween card, but if you've got another kind of theme, something, you know, you could have 3 different sentiments appearing in here. That would be cool. That would be good. And round it spins. There is too much space at the bottom of this card for my liking, so I want to fill it in with the sentiment, and I'm using this one from the Mr. Funnybone set. It's Happy Spooky Creepy Scary Halloween, and I have a strip of basic grey card and my Versamark ink, and I'm just going to stamp that down onto the basic grey. And if I'd had any sense at all, I probably should have gone over it with my stamping buddy beforehand, but I'm not too concerned because I'm going to cut this bit out in just a second anyway. I have my white embossing powder, same powder that I used for the skelly, and I've just decanted it into this convenient little tub. Okay, put the top on that before something untoward happens to it, as is quite likely to happen when I'm involved. And I've got my my heat tool, and I'm just going to heat emboss this. And shouldn't take long. There we go. And I'm just going to cut this out roughly following the shape of the word. And I'm kind of wiggling the scissors along there, because if you don't think you can cut an absolutely straight line, the best thing to do is to cut a wiggly line on purpose, and then nobody will ever realise you didn't mean it. Okay, so I think cut that bit there. Right, okay, so that will do. Bring back my card front, and that is going to sit on there. And in this case, I have my fast fuse, that'll do fine. In fact, snail would probably have worked just as well for me in this particular case, because this isn't, there's no sort of weight to this. It's not holding anything. If it's like holding a corner of a box, then you wouldn't use snail for that, because it wouldn't stand the strain. But in this case, it's just holding that sentiment in place for me. So now I'm going to bring back my card front, and I have my adhesive foam strips. Oh, I want to say one more thing before I put this together. Because this isn't stuck down, I can do that, and I can do that. And what I wanted to show you was this is the other bit of the circle that I punched out, that I cut that strip out of, and I've just stuck those either side of the aperture there, so that when the wheel is spinning, it spins smoothly. It doesn't catch on the edge of the aperture. So I should just pop that back, and yes, let's make him a skeleton. Let's make him a pumpkin head this time. So I have my foam adhesive strips. These bits here, I don't really need to take the backing off those, because I don't want them to stick to anything. They're just there giving dimensional, so I'm going to leave them as they are. I'm not going to take the backing off them at all. And that is actually a bit of a top tip, in that if you've got something that you're applying a lot of dimensionals to, because it is something that you want to have a lot of support on, you don't need to take the backing off each and every one of those dimensionals. You can save yourself some time. You can if you want to, of course you can. No, there's no law, but you do not have to. And if that is the case, then you can save yourself a bit of time. Okay. Okay, so there is my spinner, and what I am going to do actually is I'm going to put some little arrows so that people will know they're supposed to turn the wheel. Just drawing these in with my little marker pen here. And that one hasn't stuck down very well. That's going to rub. And there we go. Just to indicate to people that there is a little bit of something, a little bit of action that they can take with this card. And there. Yeah. And that is my finished moving wheel card. And I wish I could claim to be the person who thought up the idea of using the snap fastener to make the wheel spin, because I think it's an absolute genius idea, and I would love to be the person who thought of it, but I wasn't. It was something that I saw on my Facebook page, on my Facebook feed, one of those things that popped up one morning, and I just looked at that and I thought, that is just so clever. And I hope that you agree with me. And I hope that you've enjoyed watching this video, and if so, then please do give it a thumbs up, leave me a comment, subscribe to my channel. If you want to visit blog, Facebook page, online store, all the information is below this video. As I said during the tutorial, I will post the details of how I sponged this background onto a separate video, and you can find it from the link, and I'll post it here again. Okay, I'm not going to make it a public video. You're going to have to follow the link to get to it. But for now, I do thank you very, very much for joining me, and I hope you'll come back and see me again soon. Bye bye.